June 24, 1945, Red Square, Moscow. 100,000 people are standing in the rain, and they are screaming one name, not Stalin's. A man rides out on a pure white horse. His uniform is covered in medals. This is the general who saved Moscow when the Nazis were 12 miles from the city. The general who broke the siege of Stalingrad. The general who led the final assault on Berlin and personally accepted Germany's surrender. His name is Georgy Zhukov, and right now, he's the most beloved man in the entire Soviet Union. Somewhere on a stone platform off to the side, standing on the ground, not riding, not at the center, is Joseph Stalin, watching, not smiling. Nobody in that crowd knew it yet, but they were watching the beginning of the end for Georgy Zhukov.
Zhukov didn't come from privilege. He was the son of a shoemaker, born in a village so small most maps didn't bother with it. He joined the army as a teenager and clawed his way up through pure competence. Not politics, not connections. By the time Hitler's army invaded in 1941, Zhukov was the one general Stalin trusted to fix the impossible, and Zhukov kept fixing the impossible. Over and over. Moscow, Stalingrad, Berlin. Each time the Soviet people learned his name a little better and loved him a little more. For a dictator like Stalin, that should have been useful. A hero, a symbol, a weapon. Instead, it became a threat. Because Stalin hadn't spent 20 years building a cult of personality, the posters, the songs, the idea that he alone was the mind and soul of the Soviet victory, just to share the stage with someone the crowd loved more instinctively than they loved him. That parade, the white horse, the roar of the crowd for another man's name, Stalin never forgot it. Within a year, the machine started turning against Zhukov, quietly at first. Whispers in closed meetings that he was taking too much personal credit for the war. Then came a word designed to end careers in Stalin's Russia. Officials accused him of Bonapartism, a direct comparison to Napoleon, a general who used his fame to crown himself emperor. It didn't matter that Zhukov had never shown a hint of political ambition. The accusation was never really about what he'd done with his power. It was about how big he had become in the eyes of the people, standing right next to the man at the very top. Stalin didn't have him shot. He didn't need to. That would have made Zhukov a martyr, and martyrs are dangerous too. Instead, Stalin did something quieter, and in some ways crueler. He stripped Zhukov of his command in Moscow and shipped him off to the Odessa military district, a forgettable posting, far from any cameras, far from any crowds. Later, he was pushed even further out to the Ural military district, about as far from relevance as a Soviet general could be sent. The man who had ridden into Red Square on a white horse to the loudest cheers Stalin had ever heard for someone else's name, that man spent the next years commanding paperwork in provincial obscurity. Not because he failed at anything. He was punished for succeeding too visibly, too loudly, in front of a man who could not stand to be outshone. Zhukov survived. Years later, after Stalin's death, he briefly returned to real power. But by then, every officer in the Soviet military had already learned the lesson his career had quietly taught them. It does not matter how much value you create for the man above you. If you make him feel smaller in front of a crowd, even once, he will find a way to make you disappear from view. This is the first and oldest rule in the entire game of power, and history has proven it again and again and again. In courts, in companies, and in armies, never outshine the master. The people above you rarely got there by accident. They protect their position with everything they have, and the moment you make them feel replaceable in public, talent stops protecting you. It starts to work against you. That single parade told an entire nation who the real hero of the war was. Stalin spent the next 2 years making sure they forgot it.